Something I noticed about the awakening stage is that you just want to stop life and start working on everything immediately. And unfortunately, it's just not that easy. Especially when we still have to be out in the real world. We still have to work, pay bills, be parents, maintain relationships, and just everything else going on around us. I was saying to myself, okay, you got this part down packed. You know the inner work part. You know about walking in faith and in belief, being brave, knowing and understanding this thing called life and how it works, and just working on and focusing on things that you can actually control. So now I'm like, let me start working on some of this childhood trauma that has been holding me back so that I can possibly experience the endless opportunities that will open up and lead me to where I'm supposed to go. So I decided to get this journal that was specifically for my traumas. I wrote down everything that came to my mind at that time that I felt like could have been holding me back, or that I was making my own story. And it was a whole page long, so it was things that were definitely, I felt, very detrimental to me at that time in my life. And then I thought, okay, I'm gonna just take these down, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna sit down each day and I'm gonna work on every single one individually, and then I would just be healed. And that is not how it works at all, and it did not work out that way. Do you hear the birds? It's so peaceful. Okay, so growing up, I was spoiled materially but not emotionally. I was raised by two strong go-getter bad bitches, which were my grandmother and my mom, and we were just taught to be very independent. You don't need nothing from no man, and if he is coming, what's he coming with? My Nana was more, she showed us love, but it was more of how she knew how to show it, which was good enough to us. That's all we knew. And then on the other hand, we have my mom. She's a young, well, she's late teens, early 20s, raising two daughters, just straight to the point, knowing what she wants, knowing who she is a straight go-getter. And she wasn't very affectionate, but she did the best that she could raising us. But I noticed being raised this way, it was hard for me to know how to love, how to be loved, how to be in a healthy relationship, how to work on things when they got hard. All I hear is my Nana calling every man a creep. And just, I guess it was based off of her experiences. She really didn't have that type of healthy relationship or that type of man in her life. So this is all we're going off of, is just what she knows. And then also, I'm not knowing who I really am. So I'm living based off of these people around me. Even my sister, she was the same way. And then here I am, this sensitive, loving, caring, nurturer, healing type of individual, and I am starting to create this narrative of this is who I am because this is all I know. And at that time, I'm not self-aware or even conscious enough as a young person to know that this isn't who I am, or just everything that's even going on around me. I just don't even know what's going on. I'm just living in it, and this is who I am now because this is all I know. And even as at a young age, I knew that I was different and I wasn't like them, but there was really nothing that I could do about it at that time. It's just, this is my life and this is what I'm gonna live. And just like all of us, during these impressionable years, a lot of trauma was created. And I can't speak for all families, but I know mine isn't the only one like this. But when there were very traumatic issues that occurred, we didn't acknowledge them. We didn't talk about them. They literally did not happen. They just weren't a thing. They would happen, and then we would just keep on going about our days. So while all these are happening, you're just living life, and you don't even realize that you're being molded and creating these as your reality and making them who you are now. So during this phase of my awakening, I'm deciding that it's necessary to dive deeper into some of those traumas that made a pivotal, like this pivotal moments in my life to where I feel like they held me back growing up. And I felt it was definitely necessary to start acknowledging what those were and to start fixing those issues if I could. And not to get into specifics, but some of those issues were abandonment, rejection, not being myself, not knowing my true identity, relationships to money, people pleasing, dealing with guilt, walking with the narrative that I was too shy, I don't like to be center of attention, and using my voice. And that's just to name a few. And at that time, I just felt it's just time. The time is now. If I am able to move forward and want to move forward in my life, I can't go any further without dealing with my past and things that I felt are a huge reason why I moved the way that I moved so far, this long and so far. And I just need to work on these in order to move on to my true greatness and experience the life that I'm supposed to experience. There was this instance where I decided to do this guided meditation for breaking through traumas. And it was Aaron Daughtery, to be exact. And he's telling you to think about a moment in your life that you feel once it happened, it shifted who you became and basically how it impacted your life moving forward. It wasn't those exact words, but basically it was along those lines. So the first memory that came to my mind, and it's vivid, I vividly remember it. I was about 7 or 8, it could have been younger. I remember just being my normal silly self, and I remember I was in the kitchen hiding under the table, and I was waiting for anyone to come in to scare them. Mind you, my family is not that type. They're like, don't play like that, don't scare me. But at that time, like, whatever, I'm a kid, this is what I'm doing. So I'm being silly. And I remember scaring my mom. And I don't know exactly the words that she used, but it was like along the lines of like, are you dumb or are you retarded? Something like those. I'm not gonna quote, but it was along those lines. Knowing what I know now, obviously she didn't think that I was dumb or retarded. It was more of, that was her first response because I scared her, and she probably just didn't, she just said the first thing that came to her mind. So I know that she didn't really think that. But to the little kid in me, I was heartbroken. I'm just being silly and just having a good time, and I just picked the wrong person to play with that day. But I do notice after that moment, I stopped being my silly self. I started to be shy. I wasn't really like too playful. 1, because I was afraid, and 2, I thought that I was dumb. That's dumb. You're not supposed to do things like that. Like, why are you gonna play like that? Why are you gonna scare someone like that? Like, why do you think that's funny? So it literally shifted who I became at that moment. And in the meditation, it's telling me to sit in those feelings. Remember how you felt at that moment. And I'm sitting in those feelings. I'm also thinking about, like, what if I would have told my mom about those? First, it's like, back then, you know, you don't really tell your parents feelings. You don't talk about those kind of things. But also, even now, if I were to tell her, like, this happened and you did this to me and I felt this type of way, she'd probably be like, really? Or she might dismiss it, or who knows what her reaction would be to it. But I felt that was very detrimental to me, and that was a huge moment that pivoted how I moving forward. One thing I do notice about healing, you have to be okay with possibly not having a proper conversation that you need in order for closure, and you have to be okay with that. Everyone's perspectives, their experiences are different, their traumas are different, so they may not necessarily understand it. And also, like my sister, she had the same mother, but she was just like my mother, and she was very strong-willed, and certain things just didn't bother her like it bothered me. I was very sensitive and very emotional, and she just went about just living her own life. Things didn't affect her the way that it did. So you have to understand that your traumas and your feelings are your feelings, and everybody else's aren't, or their perspective is not going to be the same as yours. But I would not downplay that moment, because this is my life, this is my story, and I feel like it played a huge role in how I moving forward. And it might be small to a lot of people, but for the little kid in me, that was huge. And I'm not going to take away that moment and those feelings that I felt at that time, because they were very real to me. Okay, so back to the meditation. So at this point, I'm feeling those feelings. I'm crying. I am really emotional. I am back to that little girl. And then it's telling you, go back to that little kid from where you are now. What would you say to her? So basically, I just went to her being under the table, had just been yelled at, feelings are crushed, being heartbroken, feeling like she's retarded or dumb for being a silly little kid. And I'm just telling her, it's okay, still be you, still be silly. Just know that there's certain people that you just can't play with that way. But don't change who you are as a person. So I envisioned the little girl, just when she just got yelled at, it's just like, okay, my bad, I didn't mean to scare you. Yes, you said what you said, but I'm still going to be me, and this is who I am, and this is what it is. And I ended up just laughing it off and just running and just going about my life. I can't explain it. I felt so happy for little Ebony. Like, I just felt like that was a phase of my life that just was kind of lifted off of my shoulders. Like, I didn't hold that feeling in my heart anymore. And it sounds easy to have healed from something like that, but I feel like with anything, when it comes to healing, it's about the feeling. It's about being present. Like, I was in that moment. I felt those emotions. They felt real to me. I had to go back into that space again and be that person in order to feel those, and in order to sit and hear those as that individual, and then come back and just realize, okay, I can literally move forward from this. But in order to get those results and to heal, you have to be present. And just doing that meditation just had me realize how I am with my daughter. She has a strong personality, and she's all over the place. She can be a bit much sometimes. And even if I feel annoyed or feel overwhelmed, I could be mean about it, because that's all I know if I was being annoying. But I try to sit back, have patience, and allow her to be who she is. Like, why is she just being her affecting me at all? And knowing what I know now, she has to be that person. She has to live in that space. She has to live in that energy. She has to continue to know who she is. And I don't want to dim her amazingness because of something that I'm just feeling at that current moment. So I notice things while working on my own traumas that allow me to be a better parent. Also, I allow my kids to express how they feel, use their voice. I ask my son all the time, is there anything that he feels like I could be doing differently as a mom? Because I'm new to this. This is my first day today having a 17-year-old. Tomorrow's going to be a new day for me to have a 17-year-old. I don't know what I'm doing all the time, but I want to make sure that they're able to have this safe space with me to feel comfortable. And if there's something that they feel like could cause anything to hold them back or to just interfere with who they are now, I'd rather know now so that I can work on it, because I'm not perfect. And I want to be the best person that I can be. And I feel like they're the individuals who are experiencing it, so they should be able to express their feelings. And if I'm being bitchy, or if I'm being mean, or if I'm being in my own feelings because, you know, you're just living in that, I want them to be able to tell me, oh, Mom, that one time that you did this or that, like, it really hurt my feelings. Or I want to acknowledge it immediately. I don't want them carrying anything into their adulthood and holding on to that narrative. Something that made me sad, a while ago, I was speaking with my grandmother, and we were just talking about how we were as kids, and she was just saying how, like, I was the silly one, how she just remembered how I was really goofy, and this made me really emotional, because not just the moment that I described to you, but it was several occasions where I felt that it was taken away from me, or I took it a certain way to where I felt that it was taken from me because I didn't understand, so I just brushed it away altogether. But I carried that into my teenage and young adult years because I didn't know that side of me. It had been so long, and that's what fed my soul. That's my soul. That's my spirit. That's not Ebony. That's who my soul and my spirit is. This is just the body. But that person, that individual, that whatever it was who made me excited, made me happy. That's who I was supposed to be, and I didn't get to live that for a long time. It's like you live and you learn, and I just refuse to hold on to that anymore. I just don't want that to be those to be the reasons why I'm not being the happy individual that I was. So just like anyone else, you would think that doing a meditation like that, okay, I'm gonna do that tomorrow. You know, I'm gonna do that whenever I feel like it. But then when I try to go back, it didn't hit me the same way. And I don't know if it was because I was trying to force it, or I just feel like it's all about divine timing. It's all about an energy. It's all about the urge to heal versus like, let me just do this because this is something that I want to do. But it's all about a feeling, and it's all about right timing. And I've been able to experience healing in other ways, not that way specifically, which I don't want to neglect that because I feel like it'll be perfect when it's time to come to that again. But it just wasn't as easy as it was the first time to just get back into that space and just, oh, let me go back to another time and let me experience it. It just didn't work that way. Also, something I've noticed working on myself, no, my traumas haven't gone away, but I think I have a different perspective. I think I have a better understanding that sometimes you have to go through those in order to be the person that you are today. There were lessons that you needed to learn. Also, sometimes the people who raised you moved how they only knew how to move, and it's just an understanding behind it. Everybody's not perfect. It could have been intentional, non-intentional, but I just feel like I have a better understanding, and I'm just choosing not to be a victim any longer of any of those circumstances. And also, speaking of victim, I feel like a lot of the situations that I thought were extreme and really severe really weren't, but at that time, I'm thinking of certain circumstances that I was put in that I didn't have a choice, and those decisions that were made was because I didn't have any other option. But when I think back to it, there were definitely, even though I didn't know it at the time, there were definitely other avenues that I could have taken, and I chose not to. But I put those on other people and became a victim of those circumstances when I could have taken a different avenue. Certain things you're not going to be able to control, obviously. There's a lot of deeper trauma, but I feel like certain things that I thought were really severe, which I'm not going to take away the ones, because there are some that I had no control over, but the ones that I did, I feel like I need to let go of those. And it's just lifting this weight of just all this anger, hurt, resentment, holding myself back because of those certain situations. And the power of understanding, it doesn't erase these feelings, but it just allows you to just move on. It just lets you move on. And as I was saying earlier, it's kind of hard to have these kind of conversations. Like, I feel like our parents' generation was a generation of, you don't talk about feelings. One, it's an awkward ass conversation to have. It's like, okay, you literally fucked my life up in this way or that way. Two, they feel like from their point of view, this is all that they knew and they did the best that they could. Look how good you came out. And look at all the good things that I did do for you. But it's like, yes, I'm not taking away the things that you did good for me, but I'm not going to take away all the bad shit. But it's just one of them things, like I said before, it's a tough conversation. You're either going to choose to have it, or you're going to choose to heal it in your own way, so that you're able to move on without having that conversation. And deeper traumas is going to take more than you solving yourself. Sometimes you may, and most likely, because there's this levels of trauma, that you may need a therapist to work through those. I do feel like our generation is a generation that's moving forwards for is removing generational curses, and it's allowing generations after us to just move forward and to just move more peacefully and to just work on things and being self-aware and acknowledging things when it's happening, or being still enough and moving and being present to notice when things aren't right, and then to just work past those so that they're not bringing those along and adding those onto their child and their children and everyone who else is to come after that. One thing I do notice about my mother, I feel like she's changed. She's like she's always been one of my best friends, but we had like our things just in the past due to certain circumstances. But I do feel like she's one of my best friends, and I feel like now that I'm showing her more of who I am, she's wanting to get to know me. She's like finding ways to better communicate with me because she knows that I'm more sensitive and that I may take things a different way. She's literally taking the time out to figure out who I am as her daughter and to communicate with me in an effective way so that we can build a stronger relationship. And I think that that's huge for her to even want to do that, and it means so much to me. During this process, it's extremely important to pay attention to your feelings. Document those. Ask yourself questions. See what comes up for you. I say ask questions to yourself because it's your perspective. It's your life. You're the one who's feeling this way. So only you are going to know the answers to these questions. And that's why it takes time, and it's important for you to dive deep and to get to the root of why you're feeling this way. And a significant part of this journey is awareness. It takes a lot of work, and when I tell you, it is not for the weak. And that's why a lot of people don't do it, or like me the first time, how I fell off, because it takes consistent work and it takes a lot of constant attention to what's going on around you. And of course, it's so much easier to just go with the flow and not put in the work. But when you think about it, is that what really makes you happy? Even if you're getting all the things that you ask and pray for, but without working on yourself, are you still really happy? Think about that. I want to leave you with this. Give yourself permission to be who you truly always been. Look at yourself now and see where it led you to. Everything is for a bigger purpose, and we're all here for our own reasons. It was all for a bigger purpose, more than you'll even know. Just know that you are amazing, you are enough, and you are worthy of getting any and everything that you want. See you in the next video.